Okay, I'd want to introduce our next speaker in the morning, the earlier morning, I should say. It's still morning for those still keeping count. We covered tech-based economic development specifically. Now we're turning to the two regions, Denver and Dallas. They do similar work in tech-based economic development, but what we're going to get from the next two speakers are a broader, more comprehensive view of economic development in those respective regions, and what lessons can be learned for Las Vegas. And again, all the bios, the full bios, are inside your agenda, and I encourage you to read them. All these folks we brought here are impressive. They're all leaders in their respective regions. And I'll give you Mike Rosa from the Dallas Chamber of Commerce. Mike.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've always enjoyed trips to Nevada. I've had some time in the Reno area. I've also spent some wonderful time in the Elko area and a couple of times in Las Vegas, and always enjoy coming here. I've been doing economic development in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for about 20 years, and over that period of time, we work with lots of companies that were thinking about moving and expanding in that area, and we have somewhat a bit of a geographic identity crisis in DFW and in Texas. For those on the East Coast, we're a little bit too far west. For those from the West Coast, we're a little bit too far east, and sometimes we wonder where we fit and who we are. Being in the middle of the country is great, but today I feel like I've definitely planted firmly in the western United States, and when I agreed to speak and participate, that sort of settled it for me. I said, that's fantastic. The good people in Nevada say, we're part of the West, and then TCU goes and joins the Big East Conference and completely screws everything up. I'm going to touch on a little bit about DFW, a little bit about Texas as well, how we have done in economic development, how we've grown the economy over the years. You'll probably notice some parallels, I hope you do, to the Las Vegas and the Nevada experience. You know, there really is not a very good reason for Dallas-Fort Worth, which is in the sort of north-central part of the state of Texas. No real geophysical reason for us to be there. The place was built, and now the fourth largest metro in the country was built on economic will and business acumen and drive and good old-fashioned Texas spirit. Now the fourth largest economy in the country. We believe that it really is our time to strike and grow and diversify our economic base. There are countless reports, Forbes, The Economist, on and on they go about what's happening in this country, what metropolitan areas will be successful, which ones may not be successful, what states will win, what states will lose, and we are dead set on being one of those states and one of those regions that succeed. Corporate America today is looking for places where they can access the U.S., access the world, where they can find the talent that they need, where they can afford to be in the first place, and that offer quality of life and amenities and attributes that allow business and the employees and the talent to grow and thrive. And we are very, very focused on that in our region. We have a solid base, we believe, from which to launch, from which to move forward. Most observations in economic development rankings, and we saw some earlier this morning about Utah, will find Texas or find Dallas-Fort Worth to be in the upper echelon, the top tier, top shelf of economic development regions, economic development states. And so we have a good platform upon which to build, a good critical mass to launch from, and a good perception around the U.S. anyway. Now, when you expand that to the globe, Texas is a little bit of an unknown, and certainly Dallas-Fort Worth is as well. Over the period of 2000 to 2009, the DFW area added 1.2 million people. That was, in that period of time, about the size of the entire Austin metropolitan area. So we are growing rapidly, and there are some that suggest that in about 20 years, we'll have over 9 million people, and at some point may pass Chicago as the third most populous metropolitan area in the United States. I know this is a little tough for you to read. We have done very well in diversifying our economy over the years. Diversity, that one simple word, is really the key strength to the Dallas region. It's why it performs steadfastly when economic times go down. It's why it's named one of the most likely regional economies to recover from the last couple of years. And one of the reasons is our diversity. And a big part of that diversity is having an international airport built in the mid-'70s. That bottom blue squiggly line that sort of goes across and then kind of shoots up, that's the number of Fortune 500 headquarters in the DFW area. And right where that line starts to go up is when Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport opened up. If we explore the headquarters sector for just a minute, again, all the little fonts aren't as important as the colors. Each one of those colored boxes lists headquarter companies in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and each color is a different sector. All right, there's the energy sector in blue, the construction sector in green, transportation in red, healthcare in that burnt orange, trade and services below the burnt orange, and then the bright red, professional and business services, purple, manufacturing headquarters, green, accommodations, food services, retail, and that sort of thing. We really take great pride in spreading our economy around so that when economic shocks come through and knock one or two or even three legs off the stool, we've still got lots of economic legs to stand on. Very, very critical and an admirable goal for Nevada. There's no question about it. Again, a little bit closer view of some of the HQs in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and you'll see that right away. We do have clusters. We have Southwest Airlines and American Airlines, sure, but we've got clusters in multiple different sectors. Really adds a lot of strength to our Dallas area. Years ago when that airport was built, and that's a slide of one of the new terminals, and the fact that the Dallas area was sort of along the river of trade, that green river-looking map is the flow of goods and services along U.S. highways, and you can see that Dallas is well positioned. But years ago, 25 years ago, the Texas business climate was not what it is today. We had to take, in Texas, lots of multiple steps to engage the fact that people are no longer going to move or expand to Texas just because it's Texas. I'm not a native Texan, so I wasn't born with that attitude, okay? But it was there years ago, and Texas finally got it and realized we had to do a lot of things to improve the climate. And this was, again, back in the 80s and the late 80s. And, of course, the bust that took place during that period of time helped motivate Texas to get its act together. Now, Texas is a complicated state. It's a big state, just like Nevada is a big state. What I'll share with you now are a couple of slides that highlight why being able to get the state together and speaking as one voice in terms of incentives and actions wasn't as easy as it might have been in some other states. Every dot you see there is a city of over 100,000 people in the state of Texas, all with different goals, geographically dispersed. It's about 900 miles across the state from El Paso to Beaumont, Port Arthur. So that's 100,000 or more. Here are our 200,000 to 300,000 populated cities. And again, you'll start seeing that clustering in my home area. And then Arlington with 300 to 500,000 people. And then we've got cities like El Paso and Fort Worth and Austin that are between 500,000 and a million. And Austin and Fort Worth are closer to a million than they are 500,000. And then we've got million-plus cities, Houston over 2 million, Dallas 1.3, San Antonio about 1.3, 1.4. So a very widespread state with lots of large cities, lots of big dogs that think that their economic goals need to be met down in the state capital of Austin before others. And so getting all of these forces, all of these legislators, urban versus rural, suburban, etc., different cultures, different economic sectors, different economic bases and subregions, all working together over the last 20 years toward a path of inducement and incentivization and business attraction is actually quite a feat for the state of Texas. One of the smartest things that's been employed over the years is to allow sort of a local option-based approach to incentives. This is a map of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. A lot of our cities are there, a lot of large cities. We have 14 cities, over 100,000 people, all with different goals and interests. And to edict one or two or a handful of incentives from the state down to the local community, said it shall be this way, just would not work in Texas. You saw that by the big state map with all those large cities and areas of interest. Instead, the state took a local option approach to address some of the issues, allowing cities to fill their toolbox with the kinds of tools that met their individual economic development goals. Here are a couple of things, and basically these are in chronological order from about the late 1980s through today. Some of the challenges and incentives that the state of Texas has enabled communities to enact, and some of these are statewide, that helped us get where we are today. There was a time 25 years ago when distribution centers avoided the state of Texas. Our logistics sector was very, very weak. We would tax in-transit inventory, for example, property taxes. Now, Texas is a sales and a property tax state, no income tax, so we rely on sales and property taxes, and those rates can be high compared to other places in the rest of the country unless you incentivize them down to recruit companies. But the combination of intrastate trucking deregulation and inventory tax exemption, the first and third incentive, well, there was a time also when a trucker couldn't take a load from one spot in Texas to the other and then pick up a load and where he was going and bring it back home. That type of hauling was not allowed. It was really a barrier to distribution and logistics trade in a place that makes all the sense in the world geographically for that kind of industry. We broke through some of those barriers, and that led to a boom in the logistics and distribution sector. We allowed tax increment financing so that cities could generate downtown centers and retail centers and do all sorts of things that they wanted to do as communities using the incremental gains in property tax to fund up front some of the infrastructure enhancements to make the projects go. Real and personal property tax abatement at the city and county level. Again, it's optional for cities and counties to do that. If they choose to do it, they can abate real and personal property taxes up to 100% for a period of 10 years. Probably one of the most widespread and impactful incentive tools and initiatives at the state level was the passing of the economic development sales tax about 20 years ago. And what that allows for each community in Texas is to be able to collect a half-cent sales tax up to a half-cent, doesn't have to be a full half-cent, and then use that money to fund economic development endeavors and initiatives in that community. There are over 500 cities now and communities, large and small, in the state that have economic development war chests, if you will, some of them small, some of them very, very large, and they are able to use that money with a great deal of flexibility to expand and recruit companies that meet that community's goals. Very, very successful program in the state. I'll jump to the Texas Economic Development Act. One of the things we noticed with our property taxes sometimes running $2.50 to $3 per $100 of value is that was a disincentive to large capital-intensive projects. There can be projects that wanted to locate in the state of Texas, but they would pay way more in school taxes than would be lined up with their burden that they were placing on those specific schools. So school districts now in the state can put a cap on property taxes that are charged to very, very high capital-intensive projects, but at the same time projects that don't put a lot of burden on the education system. It's sort of a fairness act that has resulted in a lot of wind energy, wind farms, lots of renewable energy activity in the state of Texas. The Skills Development Fund, training dollars, working through community colleges, companies can aggregate together and develop skills that are needed for industries that come along and grow. The Texas Enterprise Fund, created back in 2003, is the state's deal closing fund. It's about a $300 million fund that allows the state of Texas to offer cash grants for companies that make sense for the state and that want to locate in Texas. A very, very important incentives. Those were things over the last 20 years or so, and again, those were mostly in chronological order, that got Texas competitive, able to compete, and the testimony that, all right, we believe you now. Companies aren't going to come to Texas just because it's Texas. We've got to act, be aggressive, and build our state to be an attractive business location. Now the state is looking ahead, looking toward the future, thinking bigger. What are going to be the next big things? How does the state of Texas compete in the world and global scale? The Emerging Technology Fund is a terrific program that allows for, it's about a $200 million program, allows funds for research and commercialization in the state. Since 2003, there have been, 2005 when it was enacted. The Enterprise Fund was 2003. $340 million has been invested. There have been 15 matching grants for university and commercialization. There have been 17 research superiority grants. The state of Texas helps its universities attract talent from other locations, and 124 other grants that get companies through the valley of death and allow them to grow and and become sort of the next big things for the state of Texas. Very, very important. Tier 1 universities. The state of Texas, and I'll touch on this a little bit later, it's very exciting, has now created a program as of the 2009 legislative session to provide funds so that we can have more Tier 1 universities in the state and help our economy grow. CPRIT, the Cancer Prevention Research Institute of Texas, 2 years ago, a $3 billion bonding authority. $256 million has been spent, 207 awards. That is geared toward Texas becoming a world leader in the prevention and commercialization of cancer research and cancer cures. We really want to see that grow in our state, and we're moving forward on that initiative. Marketing the state of Texas is done very, very collaboratively. The state of Texas, excuse me, get that off there. Click on that. Thank you for your patience. The state of Texas works very, very cooperatively and collaboratively. The governor's office on down, we've got a team we call Texas One. Those are all the communities and regions of Texas working together to market the state. There's not a consulting conference or corporate executives or site consultants around the country that haven't seen Texas One, haven't welcomed us into their office, and haven't been to Texas so we can market the state. And then the economic development professionals around the state of Texas come together as a Texas Economic Development Council and Team Texas and really work hard to make some of these incentive issues pass and to market the state as well in concert with the governor's office and Texas One. All the things that happen and all the improvements at the state of Texas level really have benefited the Dallas-Fort Worth area and our ability to do regional and localized economic development. And we have a great platform from which to build. We have a lot of strengths, but we realize that, we want to be a global region. And we took a hard look at the Dallas area a couple of years ago and said, are we positioned where we need to be able to go global, to be able to have the kinds of attributes and skill sets and talent and access that take us not only from being a top prominent area in the U.S., but take that around the world and grow our economy that way. Some of the engines of globalization, logistics and trade, the ability to access a region and get all over the world and for the world to get to you, having technology and advanced services like corporate headquarters that can lead the charge and establish, a region as one of the spikes in the flat economy of the world. We felt like we were pretty strong when it came to our attributes compared to our U.S. Competition and where we were perceived and where we stood within the United States in terms of logistics and trade. We're a premier region there by most accounts. Technology, we're prominent in lots of sectors. There's not a lot of technology buzz about our region because our technology is a bit fragmented, but we've got lots of it to build on. And advanced services such as headquarters, we are a premier region in the country. But globally, we found out that we had some weaknesses that we wanted to work on. Logistics and trade, that's fine, but when you open it up to a map of the world, then there's nothing particularly special about the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In fact, there are usually other airports in other regions like L.A., Chicago, Miami, Atlanta, New York that are actually closer by air to global markets than we are. So we're ringed by places that might even be in a better position than we are. In terms of technology, we get a little bit lost in the big picture. And for headquarters, we're great in the U.S., but globally we're not as well known as we'd like to be. So we took some actions and have started to address some of these weaknesses, if you will, for our region. And I want to touch on a couple of those. Going forward, as that Panama Canal opens up and the Port of Houston increases in prominence and gains in tonnage and the share of the world's economic trade, we want to tie up to the Port of Houston and establish rail connections that allow goods to come into the Port of Houston and go right to the Dallas area for customs and then redistribution. So we're working very hard on the inland port concept. We've got one in Fort Worth that connects with the Port of Long Beach. We want another that connects with Houston because we know that in the future that's going to be a very, very important route for us and keep us in a premier spot in the river of trade in the U.S. Direct flights, a lot of direct flights internationally from the Dallas-Fort Worth area and domestically as well, like you have here with your airport. But we are looking very, very much forward to the development of the new 787 Dreamliner. We are in a unique position. The inner ring that you see there is sort of the current reach around the globe from Dallas-Fort Worth. I know it's a funny way to look at the world there, but it helps in this instance. The darker line is the reach of the 787, of the Dreamliner. So immediately, we feel in Dallas that we are now going to be able to open up to Australian markets, to India, to Southeast Asia, everywhere in China. The Middle East opens up, as you can see, points in Africa, South America, we're fine already. But that new aircraft, being able to take direct flights from DFW all around the world that we haven't been able to do currently, is going to be awfully important and a real shot in the arm for our economic development efforts. Tier 1 university, I said I'd mention that, and here's the story there. We have a lot of university prowess and research and talent and graduates and enrollment in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're fragmented. We're scattered around. We're not thought of, though, as a premier university destination. We've got about 250,000 kids in school, in universities and college, but I would argue that Austin, with fewer graduates and fewer students enrolled, is thought of more in Texas as the university town. Texas has now enabled 7 institutions: University of Houston, Texas Tech, UT Dallas, UT Arlington, University of Texas El Paso, UT San Antonio, and University of North Texas, 3 of those in the Dallas area, to compete to achieve Tier 1 status. We've got 3 right now, A&M, Rice, and Texas. And what the state has done is establish a pot of money, a $50 million pot of money that will match private funding, fundraising. And so those 7 universities are out right now raising funds and looking forward to matching so that they can achieve that Tier 1 status, which is roughly a couple of things. It's $100 million or more in annual research, and it's also being thought of and perceived as a major national research institution. That's going to be very, very important for us. We also want to be at the center of some of the next big technology advances. We want our economy to diversify and grow, and we recently completed a study that took a look, sort of a new way of targeting. We looked at the kinds of sectors that were getting a lot of venture capital money right now. That's on the left side. We looked at the sectors that we're seeing a lot of merger and acquisition activity on the right side. And then in the middle are some of the sectors that are seeing a lot of investment and interest in both. And when we saw the sectors that were getting sort of a lot of interest in activity and funding and financing in both ways, we looked through that list to identify what sectors are already strong in the Dallas area and what combinations of sectors might we advance and cause to come together to possibly position the Dallas area as a leader in that sector. And the example there with the 3 red ones in the center column: application software, communication equipment, healthcare services, all getting a lot of interest. Well, you put those 3 together and you've got telemedicine, and we have had some success in recruiting and expanding firms in the telemedicine sector in the region. So looking ahead that way and parlaying your strengths into future success is awfully important to us. We have a lot of different cities with a lot of different ambitions and goals in our region. You've seen this map before. I bring it up again sort of to highlight one of the ways we work together. Each one of those cities that you see there is a member of the DFW marketing team. We collaborate. We've got about 47 members now, and we collaborate and work together, just like the state brings all of its entities together to do statewide marketing. We do the same at the next level, at the regional level, and support all of our individual communities that way. It's been very, very successful. Each of our communities has its own character, its own flavor. We have, this is just one example of that, we've got dozens of different independent school districts throughout our region, not just one school district. So each community has different kinds of schools. They have a different kind of labor base. It may be a different university or colleges in that town. They have a downtown. Maybe they don't have a downtown. Some of them focus on retail. Distribution is a focus for others. We've got a real mix. It's almost as if Dallas-Fort Worth is a state. And these are all different cities spread out with different goals and interests. So it's a complicated web, but we pull everyone together in a great way to promote and sell the region. It's worked now for the last 20 years. It's been terrific. Another map of the region, the concentric circles are basically proportional and show the number of projects that have located in our region. At the big circles represent about 100 projects. And you can see the point here is the distribution of wins and expansions and relocation really isn't just in 1 or 2 or 3 cities in the region. The way we've structured it and the incentive tools, the way the state and the region laid out the game plan, lots of our communities are able to have economic development success. And when that happens, you keep everybody singing the same song. You keep the spirit working forward, and everybody knows if they play well together, if they're part of the state's programs, part of the regional programs, that success will yield to them. And it isn't, finally, it isn't a top-down approach to economic development. Sure, the state sets the pace. They're out there marketing now. They've engaged the business incentive world, and they've really set up Texas to succeed. We do the same thing at the regional level. In the end, it's up to the individual cities to work their charm and land deals and get things done, but the reverse flow works as well. The state and the regional entities are always there to support and help communities that go out and have ideas and have companies to win or expand or retain to keep their economies going. And I'll stop there. Thank you very much.